Please welcome.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Check sound.
We have
Yes.
a Flutter heavy stream today. So
Yeah,
now we
that's
are
true.
going to talk about structuring the application, right?
Yep. Okay, hi everybody. I'm glad to be part of DevFest Central Asia. Hope you're all doing great. And in the next 30 minutes, we're going to have yet another talk about Flutter. So I'm going to share with you some lessons, tips that I have learned during my work with Flutter. So just a couple of words about me. My name is Ulugbek. I'm working with Flutter for the last 2 years, and I have created several Flutter apps for local and international market. So today we are going to talk about how to structure or architect your Flutter app, and we will try to make our apps more maintainable and more predictable. This is our agenda for today. So first we will review some principles that every software engineer must know. Then I will give some practical tips in the context of Flutter development. And lastly, we'll take a look at a live example that I have prepared. So before we jump in, I should state that all I'm going to talk right now is fully based on my own experience. And disclaimer here, I'm not saying that I'm not going to state that this is a bulletproof approach and you should definitely follow it bit by bit. But this is just general advices that I hope that everybody could find something useful in them. So without further ado, let's get started. Principles. I'm sure that everybody watching this stream today are familiar with Robert Martin or Uncle Bob, and who he is, what he have done. For those of you who still don't know about him, he is the guy who is responsible for these acronyms like dry, keys, solid, that everybody is asking in their job descriptions, right? So let's quickly recap some of them. Keys stands for keep it simple, stupid, which means that the code you are writing should be as simple as possible without any complexity. Dry means don't repeat yourself, which is self-explanatory. You should not have any code duplication. And lastly, let's mention single responsibility principle, which is a part of solid. And it basically means that every module, every class, or every function in your computer program should have only one responsibility and perform a single part of your program's functionality. If you don't know anything about these terms or about this topic, I strongly recommend you to do your own research, read about them, because these are some basics and fundamentals of software development. And if you want to be successful in IT in development, you should definitely understand and follow them. So principles are good, but how do I implement them in real app development, right? So our friendly Uncle Bob has helped here too when he proposed clean architecture approach. So what it is, it basically means that in the core of any system lies a business rules or business domain, which is actually true, isn't it? What we programmers do, we create programs for businesses, for business people, and usually business people, they don't really care what framework, what language we are using, as long as the program is working. And any other abstractions, languages, databases, or is it a web application or mobile application, everything is wrapped around this business rule. And let's take an example of YouTube. YouTube is you can launch YouTube via your phone, tablet, laptop, or even on TV, right? And we are programmers. We all understand that they are talking with API to the same server, to the same backend. And backend doesn't really care what device is asking for a next video, right? And this is called decoupling or separating your UI and your business logic. This is what we should strive to in any application or system we are writing. Because at the end of the day, if we come back to Flutter, Flutter is only just a UI toolkit. It is used to create awesome, beautiful, full of animation UIs. And okay, enough theory. Let's move to some practical tips. The tip number one is use Linter. What is Linter, you may ask? And I will tell that Linter is basically a tool that analyzes your code and draws red squiggly lines when you make some mistakes. I'm sure that you have seen it. And how can we use it? So we should use it. We can use packages because Linter rules are just another packages. We can go to pub.dev and find pedantic or effective Dart rules and add them to our pub-spec YAML. The next step is we should create analysis options YAML file in the root of our project and import there our pedantic package. So is that all? Well, yes and no. Here comes the best part, because if it was some existing project, you will most likely see something like this. Your ID will have a lot of red lines, a lot of errors, and it will be literally screaming at you. So here comes the best part. You need to refactor everything. And you may ask, why do I need to make my life harder to follow these rules? Because these rules will ensure that the code you are writing follows Dart language style guidelines. And in some companies, these rules are enforced to obey. For example, pedantic package is used internally in Google. And don't get me wrong, they are actually not so hard, and you can easily follow them and make your code much cleaner and much type safe. And also, you can customize these rules, turn them on and off if you need, and you can read about it on dart.dev. So the next tip I'm going to give is use code generation. Dart has an awesome support for code generation, and you should definitely use it. So the best place to start with is JSON serialization. Any modern app today works with internet. It communicates with the internet through some API, and usually JSON files are used to communicate. So we need in our app to parse this JSON and create some models, right? And it is actually a lot of work, and it is very boring, monotonous, and you can easily make some typo, make some mistake, lose your type, which will further lead to some errors. So what is the solution? Solution is to use packages like JSON serializable or build value. So how can you use it? You just go to pub.dev again, import them to your project, follow instructions on the package page, and run this command. Run this command on your console: flutter pub run a build, and let the Dart do its magic. We will take a look at the result of code generation in our live example. So the next tip I'm going to give is don't be obsessed by state management. And I put asterisks there for a reason. State management is a very much discussed topic in the Flutter community. Everybody is arguing whether block is good, provider, Qubit, Mobix, Redux, etc., etc. Everybody is always arguing about it. But let's zoom out and apply our single responsibility principle for state management. At the end of the day, state management is responsible for managing the state of our app, right? Surprisingly. And we should not really depend on particular approach or on particular package, for example, on block or on provider, riverpod, and etc. We should structure our app in that way that we can easily replace one state management to another. For example, Qubit to block. And of course, you should. It always depends on the case. Not always you can use provider or riverpod, but we should strive to it, and we should select the state management wisely. And the last tip I'm going to give is create packages. So let me explain let's assume that you have an app with some image slider with cool animations. Also, you have some buttons with gradients. And in the next project you need to create the exact same slider or exact same button. So what you're gonna do? I assume that you will open up your last project, copy all code, then paste it in your new project, then remove all dependencies, all references, change colors if you need. So sounds like a lot of work, right? So what I propose to you is you should create packages. You should encapsulate your widget, remove all dependencies, make it fully parameterized, and create a separate package. And you can reuse it in any new project you want. For example, I have a package for Apple lock screen with fingerprint support, and whenever in a new project I need to have Apple lock screen, I just import this package, and I'm ready to go. I just use Apple lock screen. I have it, let's say, for free. And don't limit yourself with just Flutter packages with widgets. You can create Dart extensions, only Dart code, and also reuse it. And if you feel that your package is addressing some common problem, common pain, you should definitely publish it on pub.dev so that everyone can use it. And this is how open source is working. So enough talking. Let's see the live example that I have prepared. Okay, let's first run our app. I'm using Flutter Web, so hopefully it will run. Yep. Now, this is our app that I have prepared. So you can click on this big button, and it will give you some ideas to do. For example, you are bored and you don't know what to do. So you just click on this button, and it will tell you what you can do. Also, we can choose some idea according to some category. For example, I want to do something social, right? And it will tell me go to concert with local artists with some friends, which we cannot do due to COVID and etc. Right? So where is all this data coming from? I'm using Board API. This is the API that I'm using. This is its documentation. So it's basically dummy APIs that is giving us some data. And as you can see, my app is fully responsible. Yeah. So now let's take a look how it is done. So first things first, let's take a look at our analysis options.yaml that I have talked. This is all linter rules that I'm using. As you can see, we can turn on and off any options we want. But you can basically just include the pedantic package and you are ready to go. Also, we have assets. There could be some your images, fonts you can use. Then we can look at our lib, which is our main code, and main.dart, it's just running our app. This is our app. It's nothing rocket science. It's just material app with some title. And as you can see, we have some dependencies provider. Let's take a look. It's just a multi-block provider that I'm using to provide blocks of that will be used further in the widget tree inside my app. So here we can see folders core, home, and search. So let's take a look at core. What is core? When I'm creating apps, I use this core package to encapsulate all constants or themes, roads that are common, that are applicable to the whole app, right? And also widgets. For example, we have here adaptive text button, which can you see it's fully parameterized. We can give it text, on tab, color, and text color, and this is this button. Also, we have the loader. We can use this loader everywhere in our app, and therefore I put it in core folder. Here we have theme data, or all our theme can be stored here. Then for road management, for navigation, I'm using package called Auto Router. It also uses code generation. So as you can see, I just declare all my roads that I need, and then I run code generation, and it will output me this file with all of this code that I don't need to write. It's very useful, and you can use it. So here we have our route widget, which will be run when we start our app. And as you can see, we can use it for dynamic route. For example, for dynamic route change. For example, in our app, we need to show login screen when user is not logged in. And if he is logged in, we need to show his profile page, right? And here we can check if the user is logged in or not, and depending on the state, show him the appropriate page. Right now, we don't have this login or etc. That's why I'm just returning homepage. If we go to homepage is basically this screen, and we can see here several folders. Let's take a look from widgets. Widgets. These are some encapsulated widgets that I'm using. For example, this idea button widget is this big button with bulb. Then pages, this is the only page we have. So home page, this is the widget this is responsible for displaying homepage. This is just a scaffold with add bar, and then we have block builder, which builds the content of page depending on the state that we have. For example, if it's success, if it shows this title and controls, then if it's loading, it will show this loader. If it's failure, it will show failure, and etc. etc. So here are all contents, widgets that will display according to widgets that will display the content of page depending on what state is coming from our block. Here are some models that we are using. So it's just an idea model. This is it represents this string that is coming from our API. And the most interesting part is, of course, block that I'm using. I'm using block package from Felix Angelov, which is the most favorite block implementation. If we take a look to state, these are all states that can be in our homepage. It can be initial, loading, or success or failure, right? So initially, we don't have any tip. That's why it's called initial. Then we can have loading state, or success state, or failure state. And this state holds this idea model that we have to show this suggestion for our user who wants to do something. Then we have events. So we have just one event for this screen, which is on top of this big yellow button. It is called search random because we just search random idea that we want to do. And the main file for block, which is where we map our events to state. So as you can see, we have only one event, which is search random. And when it comes to our block, what we are doing, we are yielding the loading state. As you can see, when we push this button, first it loads, right? It is loading. Then, if it's okay, if we got something, then we map this representation of activity to our idea model, and then we show it to our user. through yielding if some error happens, we catch it with our own exception. What is this repository doing, right? Because as I have told before, our block is responsible just to manage the state. That's why I encapsulated the logic of getting from API, getting data from API to the repository file. And we can take a look at it. But we cannot find it in the home folder, right? So where it is? It is in our packages folder. It is fully encapsulated, and therefore I created a separate package for it. As you can see, we have a board repository package, and it has its own analysis option, its own pubspec YAML. So if we take a look at its file, so it has a bunch of methods like get random or get by type, which we use when we want to get for some particular category of actions that we can do. And there are a lot of other methods that we can use, for example, of that activity or according to some accessibility level. And again, if we take a look at its implementation, it is calling some API client and expecting some exception, or if there is no any exception, it will just return the activity. So again, I just encapsulated the logic of getting data from API client to its own class. If we take a look, we have board API folder, and we have its own model here. It uses JSON serializable, and I just declared all properties that activity can have. Where do I get it? I get it from the documentation of API. As you can see, these are all properties that can come to me from API. So I just declared them and run my code generation, and this is what code was generated. It is fully type safe, and therefore I don't need to think about if I will have some exceptions, some errors with the types. And this is the implementation of HTTP GET call. So I'm just throwing some parameters that can be used to get exact activity that I want. For example, we can get it by key or by type, and etc. etc. So these are all parameters that can be used. As you can see, we encapsulated our API client and our repository to its own package, so that we don't really care where the data is coming. For example, right now it's coming from API, but further it can come from our local storage, from our database. So what we should do, we just need to change all the logic inside this board API package, and the rest of our app we can just don't touch it, and it will work as expected, because we successfully separated all our UI and our business logic and our calls to API, calls to local storage, and etc. So that's all from my side. I will thanks to everyone who joined this talk. These are my Telegram account and GitHub account. You can reach me if you have any questions. Also, we have some Flutter Uzbekistan community. You can also join there and post your questions and talk, and have a good day. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We have some questions.
Yes.
Yes. So first,
Okay. Can you explain briefly? Okay, scoped model is one of the first state management approaches that was proposed by Google, but right now they are proposing to use provider with change notifiers, which is basically just evolutionary step, one step further from scoped model. And as I have told, block, scoped model, provider, qubit, and etc., they are all used for managing state. They are all state managements. And architecture is more abstract thing. It's how you structure your app. It's how the data flows in your app. So when you're choosing the state management approach, you should first look in your domain, how big will your app be, and how many people will work on it. Yeah.
Thank you. And
Is
how
it
about mixed solution?
next in block as a mixed solution for? Yeah, why not? You can definitely mix them, but make sure that they are separate. They are separated. Then there will be no mess eventually in your code, because it's very easy to make a mess, and then nobody except you will understand your code. That's why it's better to just and stick with it inside the context of one project, so that anybody who will work with you or after you continue your work.
As Robert Martin said, we are expecting developers to provide good code. So good code also means readable code, not just working code. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Also from Jamshedjon.
Courses say not to use that state inside the widgets, since it may cause problems, but it's simple for me for creating a fast prototype. Well, yes, a set state, you can use it for creating fast prototypes, for just testing your idea, but set state is not scalable. So it's better to, as I have told, the whole idea is to separate your UI and your business logic, because Flutter is responsible for UI. So your widgets, what you should strive to is that your widgets are as dumb as possible. They should not know how the data is coming, where the data is coming from. The best is that you just give it the data and it shows it, and it just makes some actions in the form of sending events. Yeah. So set state is okay for small projects, for one-page projects, for just testing your idea, but it's much better to use some approach, some state management techniques. So definitely do your research and read about it.
I also have to thank Jamshedjon for having such a good participation in questions both today and yesterday. So thank you, Jamshedjon. And question from Islam about how to use block.
Do you use block per page or per widget? Well, it always depends. For example, if you have some widget that has a lot of logic with it, for example, some image slider, right? It should load images from internet or from or locally from your database from SQLite. And in this case, you can make a block exactly for your widget, for your image slider. But mostly what you will do is you will create block for use case, not for page even, but for your use case. As we saw in our live example, we have a use case of searching an idea. So this use case is responsible for getting the data from API, showing the loading state, showing failures, and our page can change, but the idea, the use case is the same always.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the last question would be about using getXlib.
What do you think about getXlib? Yeah, getX is a relatively new package. I also saw it like 2 weeks ago, and it's getting popular. But I can say that it's a lot of mixtures there. There is a mixture of state management and dependency injection. So you better keep it in mind, so that you will eventually don't have a mess. So as I have told, your widgets, they must be as dumb as possible. They should not know anything about domain, about your logic. When you create your applications in this way, you will eventually have a very scalable and maintainable app.
So,
GetX is good. Keep it in mind.
so it's enough stable to use in big projects and go to release.
Yeah, of course, you can use it in big projects, but always be aware of the consequences when you depend on packages like this. When you depend, when your logic all your logic depends on one package. For example, if this package will not be maintained anymore, what will you do? You need to think about these cases also.
Well, thank you very much, Ulugbek. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day.
You too.